There we go.
All right. I'll go over the Zoom.
We got started, so I will.
Okay, let me just call the meeting to order first, Joe, and then we'll have you do that, okay? Okay, are we ready? Okay, welcome everyone. It's Monday, February 22, and it is now 7:01. And I'd like to call the Planning Commission meeting to order. The first order of business will be to call roll. Okay, gotta get my roll sheet, sorry. I'm all prepared for this. All right, DeFranco,
I am here in Saugatuck Township, Allegan County, Michigan.
thank you. Helmrich? John, is your mic on?
Yes.
Okay, Helmrich,
Okay. Helmrich here, Saugatuck Township, Allegan County.
thank you. Eiley,
Here, Saugatuck Township, Allegan County.
Israel's here, Saugatuck Township, Allegan County. Rowe,
Here, Sedona, Arizona.
Shipley,
I hear Saugatuck Township, Allegan County.
Welk,
Fort Myers, Florida.
and you're here. Thank you. Okay, next order of business, please. Mr. Fry, would you please explain the Zoom meeting this evening?
Yes, I will.
Thank you.
So these are the Zoom instructions for the township's meetings. Number one, please say your name before speaking, before making a motion. Number two, board members are required to state their locations during roll call, which you've done. Number three, please mute yourself when you're not speaking, and that is *6 if you're on the phone. Do not click any unknown links that may be shared in the Zoom chat, as the township does not disseminate information with this function. The meeting is being recorded. Please be respectful of those who are speaking and do not interrupt. If anyone is disrupted to the point of preventing the Planning Commission from conducting business, you will get one warning before being removed from the meeting. If there is a problem with Zoom, the meeting will be reset utilizing the same meeting information. If we are unable to continue due to a technical difficulty, we will be posting a notice on the township Facebook page and website. Reminder to the board and commission members that emailing or texting is not allowed during a public meeting. Please be patient while we're all learning this new system, and we will attempt to be as deliberative as possible and get through this as a team. Thank you.
Thank you, Joe. That was very nice. Okay, moving on, I would like to look at the agenda. Is there any additions or corrections that anyone would like to make to the agenda for tonight? Hearing none, I would ask for a motion to approve the agenda, please.
I would move that we accept the agenda as written.
I'll second that.
Okay, moved by
Rowe,
and seconded by Eiley to accept the agenda as written. I have to do a roll call vote because we are on a Zoom meeting. DeFranco,
Yes.
Helmrich,
Yes.
Eiley,
Yes.
Israel's yes, Rowe,
yes.
Shipley,
Yes.
and Welk.
Yes.
Thank you. Moving on to number 4 on the agenda is the approval of the minutes. And tonight we have minutes from the Planning Commission meeting to approve and from the joint meeting that we had with the board on January 19. Shall we do the joint meeting first? Is that okay?
Yep.
Seeing as it's in your packet that way. Okay. Are there any corrections or additions or anything on page 1 of the joint board planning commission and joint board meeting from 1/19/21? Page 1. Page 2. Page 3. Page 4. Page 5. And page 6. Hearing no changes or corrections to those minutes, would someone please like to make a motion to approve?
I move that we accept the minutes as written.
Moved by Rowe,
I'll second it.
seconded by Eiley. Roll call vote, please. DeFranco,
Yes.
Helmrich,
Yes.
Israel's yes. I'm sorry, Eiley. You
Yes.
said yes. Did I skip someone? No.
Me.
Then Rowe,
Yes.
Shipley,
Yes.
Welk.
Yes.
Thank you. Okay, motion passed unanimously. Moving on to the Planning Commission meeting, minutes of 1:25:21. Are there any additions or corrections to page 1? Page 2? Page 3? Page 4? Page 5? Page 6? Page 7? Page 8? Page 9? Page 10? Page 11? Page 12? Page 13? Page 14? Hearing no changes, additions, or corrections, could we entertain a motion?
I would move that we accept the minutes as written.
I'll second that.
Okay. Moved by Rowe and seconded by Eiley. Roll call vote, please. DeFranco,
Yes.
Helmrich,
Yes.
Eiley,
Yes.
Israel's yes, Rowe,
Yes.
Shipley,
Yes.
Welk, yes.
Yes.
Daniel, I'd just like to say thank you for a very nice job with the minutes.
You're very welcome.
I think I've expressed at times that you could shorten them to make your life easier, but I agree with Denise at this point. The length of the minutes and the content is really important, and I found them very helpful. So thank you, and I'm sure we all share that sentiment.
You're very welcome.
Thanks. Okay, next on our agenda is public comment. And so the Planning Commission requests that speakers respect the 3-minute time frame for public comment, but it is your opportunity as a public person to share anything that you would like with the Planning Commission. We do want you to understand and know that it's not a question and answer period. So if you're posing questions to us at this time, we will not be answering them, but we certainly will be listening to you and take them into consideration. If you're speaking to the special approval use and site plan review under 6A, there will be public comments under that special hearing this evening. So you are welcome to speak to it in number 5 right now with us or in the next order of business. Okay, thank you. So is there anyone who would like to speak? Oh, and so what you would need to do too is kind of wave your hand so that Lene or Joe, I guess Joe will be letting you in, and we definitely need your name and your address. And then we would like to know, we need to know where you're speaking from. Like if you have an address here, but you're speaking from Ann Arbor, please indicate that. And that's just a Zoom requirement for us. Okay, thank you. Is there anyone who would like to address the board? Joe, do you see anyone that would like to address the board at this time?
I don't see anyone raising their hand. If you would like to speak, also there is the reaction button at the bottom of the screen that is the raise the hand option. If you just do that, your little hand will raise on our name of lists. So we'll give it a couple minutes for people to find that.
I do see Alicia Van Gore that you turned on your camera. Are you looking to speak right now? Oh, sorry. I'm mute again. Would you like to speak right now?
Sorry, it's actually.
That's fine.
Tell them. I'll tell my mom. Tell them.
Sure.
It's actually Doris Forker, not a.
Oh, hi, Doris. Okay, you're on our next agenda item as the applicant.
Okay,
Thank you.
sorry.
That's okay.
I don't see anything
Okay.
here.
All right. Okay, moving on to item number 6 on our agenda this evening. There is a special approval use and site plan review application for a home occupation use that has contract employees and is operating using an accessory building at 2815 66th Street, parcel number 20-022-032-20 in the A2 district for Big Thumper Express, owned and operated by Doris and Herbert Forker. I would like to open this public hearing, first of all, to our staff, and to Lene, would you like to address this, please?
Am I audible?
Sorry, who was that?
Yeah, I can hear you, Lene.
Okay. All right, good. I will start in on,
Would you like to introduce the subject
Sure.
and the project?
yeah, I'm just scrolling to get to the report.
Okay, thank you.
All right. I apologize. It appears that a few things were rotated in the packet. So, okay. So we have a special land use request for Big Thumper Express. This is located at 2815 66th Street. We first became aware of this use in 2019 following complaints from neighbors. We followed up on requests to investigate inoperable vehicles, trucks and trailers parked at the site, the installation of a gravel driveway and parking lot, and generally truck traffic. When we first went to the site in 2019, there were several inoperable vehicles, and we did see tractor trailers parked on the property. And the owners told us that they had a trucking business that they ran out of the house. Subsequently, the applicants did remove those inoperable vehicles, but we continued to receive comments about truck traffic and truck parking. And we went back to visit the site in September of this month to find an accessory building that was completed. There was a permit issued in 2017, but that accessory building was finished in 2019. We found a gravel driveway that, if you see my cursor, it's approximately in this location, and then a gravel parking and several of the trees and the vegetation removed. This is the pad where approximately that accessory building is today. Over the past several months, I've received phone calls and emails, video clips from adjacent property owners showing up to 5 trailers on the property at one time. At that point, we requested that the applicant submit for a special land use for a home-based business because our home-based business rules stipulate that you cannot operate out of an accessory building, and you also cannot have employees unless the Planning Commission authorizes it by special land use. So that was the first step that we asked the applicants to complete, and that is why we have the special land use before you today. So according to section 4642, home occupations are determined by the zoning administrator. So I'd be the one who issues a permit. But since there are these 2 items that require special land use, it first needs to go to the Planning Commission. So you can make a determination on those 2 items. And then I would have the final determination based on your decision and just weighing the criteria for home occupation. Does anyone have any questions just on the process, the procedure, where we've been? No? Okay. So I just am scrolling through just so you could see some of the photos that we've taken from the site. So this is July of 2019. This is September of 2020. You can see the gravel parking. This is the gravel driveway. Following that inspection in September of 2020, I contacted the Allegan County Road Commission just to verify whether a driveway permit had been secured. They informed me that no permit had been issued. The township was also not aware of this driveway, and we do question some of the spacing of the driveway and whether it meets the spacing requirements, but that would be something that the county would review. So looking through our ordinance, it has standards related to the home occupation, and we provided some comments for the Planning Commission. I can read through those comments, but they're also in the record. The first is that the home occupation shall be conducted only by the person occupying the dwelling. However, the Planning Commission may permit additional subordinate assistants who do not reside within the dwelling, where the assistance would not materially impair the residential character of the neighborhood or cause traffic congestion or parking problems. In no event shall such additional assistance exceed 3 in number. I've included an email exchange, and Big Thumper Express stated that they have 3 assistants who are contract employees. These 3 employees each drive a truck and trailer for deliveries. These trucks and trailers may contribute to additional traffic than would be created if only members of the household were employed with Big Thumper Express. They also added a gravel parking area in 2020 and a secondary drive. As I mentioned, it didn't have a permit. You may wish to inquire with the applicant how many family members also drive trucks for the business in addition to the 3 contractors. The aerial image shows at least 2 tractor trailers, 7 vehicles parked on the property, but that's from 2019. And then you see the more recent images with up to 5 tractor trailers. So based on this standard, I think I would look at this traffic congestion or parking problems as one of our standards. And the very nature of this business has caused an increase in parking and an increase in truck traffic, because now instead of just family members, there are an additional 3 employees also driving trucks.
Not employees.
Or contractors. Number 2, the home occupation shall be conducted entirely within the principal dwelling structure located on the premises and may not involve the use of an attached garage or a detached accessory building or any outdoor display or storage of goods, products, or materials unless and approved by the Planning Commission. So The Big Thumper Express is using a detached accessory building, and they have continuous outdoor storage of goods, products, and materials. In this case,
Wait, ma'am,
no, I'm sorry, we can't have interruptions right now. This is staff to provide their analysis. Thank you. There'll be a time for the applicant and the public to speak. Okay, so the
You're at number 2.
sorry, the very nature of this use, shipping and receiving and trucking, the trucks themselves are parked and they're outdoors, and there is storage happening. You can see in the pictures that there's some drums that are stored on the exterior of the property, as well as our fire inspector went to the site this weekend, and there are some drums, some gas fuel tanks on the property as well that are empty. Nevertheless, they are being stored on the property. So that is just an observation that relates to this item number 2. Number 3, there shall be no exterior change to the dwelling other than a permitted sign to indicate that the dwelling is being utilized for any purpose other than that of a dwelling. We don't see any change to the exterior of the house itself for this home occupation, and there is no sign. Number 4, the occupation conducted therein by measure of devoted square footage and daily activity remains secondary to the principal use. We haven't visited the interior of the dwelling nor seen the interior floor plan or the interior of the accessory building, but this might be something you wish to discuss with the applicant. Number 5, no goods or services may be sold from the dwelling which are not exclusively related to the home occupation. We believe that this standard is met. We don't see that they're selling any goods or services that are not related to the home occupation. Number 6, the occupation conducted shall not constitute a nuisance or annoyance to adjoining residents by reason of noise, vibration, smoke, odor, electrical disturbance, night lighting, or the creation of unreasonable traffic to the premises. You should listen to public comment about this. There has been truck traffic, so there is the creation of, to some people who've spoken to me initially during those complaints, that it is unreasonable. I have heard that there is noise because the trucks are idling at times. But I think that that is best determined by those adjacent property owners and during public comment. So we should consider that. Number 7, prior to the issuance of the permit, number 7 is not a standard and number 8 is not applicable. So those are the specific criteria for home occupations. Now we have general criteria for overall special land uses. And these are findings that are general and apply to any special land use in any, or special approval use in any zoning district. So in this case, we're reviewing these standards related to this specific request. So the first one is will the special land use be designed, constructed, operated, and maintained in a manner harmonious with the character of the area? So the area is A2. This is an agricultural district. The intent is for rural character and preserving farmland and open spaces, as well as residential uses. Farming operations are allowable in this district. You may wish to discuss whether a home occupation with assistance and the use of accessory buildings is harmonious with the character of the area, and how this use is operated and maintained, and again, whether that is in keeping with the character. The second one is, will the special approval use change the character of the area? The character of the area is farmland and residential. The character of the area includes homes with accessory buildings. However, the parking area, the dual driveways, the truck trailer parking is not apparent on any other properties within a quarter mile of the subject site. Number 3, will the special approval use be hazardous or involve uses, activities, materials, or equipment which might prove detrimental to the health, safety, or welfare of persons or property by reason of traffic, noise, vibration, smoke, fumes, or glare? Residents along 66th have expressed concerns about traffic, noise, vibration, and exhaust fumes. Living in an A2 area, however, could have reasonable expectation that some truck traffic is anticipated. Other permitted and special land uses in A2 with similar intensity include dairy, farming, intensive agricultural operation, retail and wholesale of agricultural products, and public schools. Each of those uses could reasonably include some amount of truck or bus traffic. The applicant has offered hours of operation from 7 a.m. to 10:30 p.m. They've not stated the days of the week that they are open, but the Planning Commission should discuss hours, idling, parking, etc., and whether the use, the home occupation, and the trucking that's happening could be considered hazardous or involve activities or equipment which are detrimental to the health, safety, or welfare of the neighborhood. And then number 4, will the special approval use place additional demands on public services and facilities? We don't believe that it will. I do want to note that the fire district did do a site visit, and they submitted a report to our department because there were concerns that there were fuel tanks on the property. Those fuel tanks are not registered. They could not find any sort of serial number on those tanks, and they're not up to current standards in terms of their, the container itself and some of the safety features that those fuel storage containers have. They did appear to be empty. Nevertheless, they're not up to the current standard. And I can share that report if you'd like. The next set of standards are just for the site plan itself. And you did see the site plan from the applicant. The first one is related to the whether the site plan is harmonious and organized in relation to the site. We did find that the buildings meet the setbacks. However, the driveway does not have a permit, and the driveway spacing may not be adequate based on section 40-849 of our ordinance. Landscaping shall be preserved in its natural state, minimizing cutting, filling, grading, tree and soil removal. The applicant has already graded the site to build the accessory building. We would say that no new grading should occur on the property. Natural resource features should be preserved. We've added a condition that natural features be preserved, especially along the north property line. If this special use were to be granted. Section number 4 and 5 relate to impervious surfaces, and no new impervious surfaces are proposed. We did not receive any sort of stormwater management plan though for this gravel parking area. However, gravel parking is impervious. Some would say it's still or it's porous, and some people would say that it is impervious, but it tends to be considered by us to be porous. The site plan shall provide reasonable visual and sound privacy for all dwelling units located adjacent thereto. The Planning Commission can discuss landscape buffers or any other tools or techniques to provide privacy and barriers if you so desire. Proper access to the parcel shall be provided. Driveways and parking lanes. This is more for a commercial use, but again, we didn't receive any sort of site plan or any sort of permit for the driveway or the parking area. So we do not know whether it meets this requirement. Number 8, every structure shall have access to a public street. That standard is met. Number 9, there shall be a proper relationship between the major thoroughfares and service drives and driveways. That standard is met. Number 10 is not applicable. It's related to pedestrian circulation. Number 11, all loading and unloading areas and outside storage, including items for trash or recycle, which face or are visible from residential properties or streets, shall be screened. Any such plant materials shall be evergreen or shrubs and spaced so they provide a screen within 3 years. The standard is not met. There is no fencing. A lot of the landscaping has been removed. The landscaping and buffer along 66 has been removed. So this would not be met. And again, you may wish to hear public comment to learn more about this. Number 12 is related to exterior lighting, and there is no lighting indicated on the site plan, but that could be a question for the applicant. Item 13 and 14, we believe are not applicable. It's related to bike paths and pedestrian circulation, and 14 related to subdivision control. Number 15, wastewater treatment is not applicable. Number 16, sites which include facilities or areas of storage of hazardous materials, waste, fuel, salts, or any other chemicals shall be designed to prevent spills. We believe that this standard is not met at this time because of the new information from the fire district, that those fuel containers, if they were to be used, would not meet the requirements that are in place at the local, county, and state and federal level. We're also not sure of any other chemicals or materials within the buildings, so that might be something to ask about. Number 17, no storage areas shall be located in any emergency access area. We would require, if this were to move forward, that a revised site plan be provided that would indicate specifically where vehicle storage areas are located, because this should be stored, because we're seeing some vehicles kind of in different locations based on those images, and it's uncertain where they're going to be housed. Outdoor storage shall be strictly and clearly incidental to the principal use. I mean, again, as this is a home-based business that's a proposed, an existing trucking operation. And so the standard is there's some gray area because they're storing these trucks and these trailers when they're not being used. So it's, and probably the area used for these trucks and trailers is a larger area. If you calculated the square foot of 5 trucks and trailers and tractor trailers, is larger than the house footprint itself. Number 19, no use shall create an electromagnetic, radio frequency, or other similar interference. We find that the use is not anticipated to cause any disturbance. Number 20, all solid, liquid, and sanitary waste shall be treated and disposed of. If this were to move forward, we've added a condition that all solid, liquid, and sanitary waste be treated and disposed of in accordance with the standards of the county health department. And then finally, that the site plan comply with all the standards of any other reviewing agency and any other agency which has control over the, our drains, our fire code, our soil erosion, pollutants and discharge. And if this were to move forward, a condition would be added that it comply. So I think based on what you've heard from this report and some of the questions, it's probably time to move into the public comment, but I'm happy to answer any questions from any of the planning commissioners or share any other additional information if you'd like.
Lene, prior to moving into public comment, we do need to introduce the project representatives and ask to hear from them. Please. Is there anyone here from the project that would like to speak? Please introduce yourself and your address and your relationship to the project.
My name is Herbert Forker. I'm at 2815 66th Street, Fenville, Michigan. I'm the owner of Big Thumper Express.
Okay. Go ahead, Mr. Thumper.
I would like
Mr.
to.
Forker.
I would like to start.
Oh,
off.
Mr. Forker, I'm sorry. Yeah.
It's okay. Thumper Forker, no big deal.
Forgive me.
No, you're fine. I'd like to start off and say I've been living here at the same address for 15 years, and I've been driving truck for the past 15 years. I've operated my business. Now, my business has grown. I used to have 10 trucks, and now I only have 6 trucks now. I added the trailers as I went out and got my own authority. We do not operate out of that additional building. The only thing I use that for is I work on my trucks every once in a while, and I park my personal vehicles inside. And we only come here about every 12 days is when my trucks gets parked. We might have 3 trucks at one time. We might have 4 trucks, but they're only here every 12 days. And we have been for the past 15 years operating between the hours of 7 and 10:30, 11 o'clock, depends. Now, if we run a little later than that, 9 times out of 10, we won't come here until the next morning. Now, as far as the fuel tanks are concerned, I thought that according to the state of Michigan, if it's 1,000 gallons or under, they're not really regulated. Maybe I was misinformed by my guy that brings me my oil, but I don't know much about that. And we did actually contact Allegan County about starting a permit for the driveway, even though it was already done. I didn't know I needed to do that. And we haven't heard from them yet.
Okay.
That's it.
That's it.
That's it? Okay, thank you. All right. At this point in the public hearing, I would like to open the public hearing to anyone who would like to speak to this project who is on the Zoom call. Again, same requirements. Please identify your name, address, and where you're speaking from. Joe, will you please help in bringing people on?
Yep.
Thank you.
Again, for the public, if you go to the reaction at the bottom, there's a raise hand option, or you can turn your camera on and wave your hand and someone will see you raising. So
it's telling me I can't turn on my video because the host has disabled it.
Oh, okay.
This is Randy Skipper. I'd like to speak if this is the appropriate time.
Yep.
This is fine, Mr. Skipper. Yeah.
Okay. Want to address a few points here that I see are important in this application. One is a legal matter. The question is, can they have subordinate assistance? Under both federal and state law, an independent contractor is not a subordinate assistant. In fact, to be an independent contractor requires that they be independent, that they be able to set their own hours, for example. So the boss couldn't say, come at this time, leave at this time. They wouldn't be independent contractors. The ordinance uses the term subordinate assistance for a reason. People who are working in the home occupation under the control of the homeowner. That's not this situation. So I don't think the township can approve independent contractors as subordinate assistants. So I don't think they can be involved in this home occupation, these independent contractor drivers. This is a matter of law and the way your ordinance is written. Outside storage and display. The parking of tractors, trailers outside here is not incidental to the home occupation. It dominates the site. No one cares if they have an office in their home. But having a number of trucks, 6, 7, 8 trucks and that many trailers, people coming and going, refrigerator trucks running all night long with the noise, the vibration of the traffic, all that engenders, that's not incidental to a home office. They could have their home office without any of this truck storage and nobody would care. The above ground storage tank, tanks used in agriculture are not regulated up to about 1,000 gallons. Other tanks are. These are not agricultural tanks. They're being used to fill trucks. They are regulated by federal and state law. It requires secondary containment, requires pollution insurance and a number of other things in order to be able to use those tanks to fuel trucks. Bottom line is there are huge major exterior changes to this property. There may not be a change to the dwelling structure itself, but the whole site is changed. And to make it worse, they took down buffering that could have protected neighbors, took out trees while adding trucks. It's not consistent with the character of the area. Lene mentioned this is the only one in the area where somebody has semi trucks coming and going. And we think it would change the character of the area. Yes, the area is agricultural zone, but there are a number of homes in the area. And these refrigerator trucks running overnight aren't compatible with that. Let's face it, this is an industrial use, trying to slip in as a home occupation. And truck terminals under your ordinance are required to be in an industrial zone, not an ag zone. Site plan, the drawings submitted don't come close to meeting the site plan requirements. As I mentioned before, the buffering was cut back, increasing the imposition on the neighbors. Outdoor storage is to be strictly and clearly incidental to the principal use, the principal use being a residence. I don't see how the truck parking, the trailer parking are strictly and clearly incidental to that. When people drive by, that is what they see. Neighbors have reported that there are trucks being repaired in that accessory building, which is a service then being provided, which is not something that's allowed as a home occupation. Even if they're being done to Mr. Forker's trucks, but other people are driving those trucks, I think that violates the home occupation standards with somebody carrying on truck repair service. You get right down to it, this is not a lot different than a truck terminal. We have trucks there, we have trailers there, we have refrigerators running, we have people coming and going all hours, we have trucks being repaired. This is a truck terminal all but name. It's a small one, relatively speaking. I used to represent a trucking company that had 125 trailers at their place. But even 6 or 7 tractors and that many trailers a day coming and going in most residential areas is not going to be considered a home occupation, but a nuisance. Thank you.
Thank you, Randall. Is there anyone else who would like to speak at this time? Please note for the record that a letter was received from, Attorney Randall Skipper and the gentleman who just spoke, and that's been entered into the record and is available. And
Would Philip Sarfati, I know that Philip, you had mentioned that you would like to speak. Phil? Are you there, Phil?
would it be Kate by chance?
Or Kate? Well, I can move on. I have a letter that they requested be read, but Let me see if there are others from the public who have not spoken yet. Harry Adams. All right, someone BRG. BRG. Okay, someone who is labeled as township resident. Okay, a phone number 201-403-3585. No.
Hello?
Hi, would you like to speak during public comment?
Yes, I would. Oh, this is working. This is Kate Sarfati. 2516 Riverside Road. I'll just make it short. I don't think that A2 zoning allows for any of this. A2 zoning says that we need open space, agricultural, and low density residential, period. It says nothing about that kind of commercial use. Thank you.
Thank you, Kate.
Okay, BRG or Harry Adams?
No comment.
No comment. Thanks, Harry. BRG? No. Township resident?
No.
Okay. That is all I am seeing, Becky.
Okay, at this time, I would like to close the public hearing. And I would like to open this discussion up to PC members, Planning Commission members. And at this time, if you have any questions on behalf of the petition that you would like to ask the presenters, you are allowed to do that too at this time. And please just open up the discussion to this petition. Would anyone care to speak?
Hi, Becky, it's Bill Rowe. I guess I would just say that in large part, I agree with Mr. Skipper's assessment of the situation. A trucking company just does not seem consistent with a home-based business for many, many reasons. Again, I agree with his general assessment of it.
Thank you, Bill. Would anyone else like to speak?
Yes, Becky. I think it's very difficult to tell somebody that's been in business for 15 years that all of a sudden you have to put the brakes on everything because you're not meeting any of the requirements. I mean, it gets back to the issue of enforcement. There's absolutely none. And that's all I have to say.
Thank you, Mr. Welk. Commissioners?
Hi, Shipley here.
Denise?
I agree with Ed. It's really difficult after this many years, I would say. I think it's wonderful that the business is growing. I mean, that's what everybody dreams of, right? So now how do we work with this business owner? Because it seems clearly that some things have been not permitted. This is kind of, I also kind of agree with the zoning that some of our public commented. Is there anything we can do to kind of meet in the middle? I don't know if somebody can help with that, I'd appreciate. knowing a little bit more from those of you that have been around. I agree, Ed, it's hard to say to someone after all those years. So yeah, your business is growing, but maybe just a little too much and a little too fast. And so how do we help with that? Thank you.
Thank you, Denise.
Yeah.
So I got a couple of, this is Dave Biley. I got a couple of just real quick questions for the property owner. I think I had heard you mention that it almost sounded like you operated mainly out of another facility or location, and then this was a secondary location. Is that correct?
No, it is not.
Okay. That answers that. And then there were comments made about the refrigeration trucks that were running all night. Does that sound accurate to you?
I don't know.
I muted the Alicia Van Gore due to the echo. If you want to unmute, just let us know.
Thank you. Go ahead, Dave. You were asking the question about the refrigeration trucks.
Yeah, there was a comment made that the refrigeration trucks would run all night long, and I was just curious as to the landowners'
Actually,
response to that.
they every once in a while we'll have to sit on a load over the weekend, and when the trucks come home, like back to my place, every once in a while one will be loaded, and yes, it will run overnight. It doesn't run constantly, but it does stop to keep the product from spoiling, but that does happen every once in a while.
And then I think Lene, one of the things that she had mentioned, so sounds like there's three, what I'll call contract drivers. And then do you have other family members then that are driving for your operation as well? So, and if so, how many is that?
No, I'm the only other driver that drives, but I do want to make one thing clear. They're not independent contractors. I do have, they are employees. No, well, I pay them on a 1099, right? But I do.
That's independent contractor.
Well, no, hang on, not according to the state of Michigan, because I got a hold of them too. I have to, as long as I provide workman's compensation from them, I can either pay them by a W-2 or I can pay them by a 1099 according to the labor board of the state of Michigan. And I've been turned in by one driver like 7 years ago. And I got a hold, and I went to the labor board, talked to him, submitted my thing, and he said what I'm doing is totally within the realm of that. They're not independent contractors. I own the trucks. I own the equipment. I pay them on a 1099 because that's how they choose to get paid. That's how they tell me that's how they want to get paid. They don't want to pay taxes until the end of the year. So they have, I don't know why, but that's just the way they want to do it.
Also tell them there are other trucks on this road.
And there is two more trucking companies. They only got one truck a piece. They're like, one's just a little over a quarter mile down the road, and they're both side by side. There's two houses down there. I'm not complaining about anybody. I just want to know if this was going to be a problem, why wasn't it addressed 15 years ago? I understand that, things have changed and my operation has changed, but at the end of the day, the only thing that has changed is two neighbors moved in. That's it.
Well, and trees cut down and opened up, the view opened up.
Well, if I didn't have a trucking company, I could take down all the trees on my property, right?
Sure, but it makes it more visible. What had been there before is now more visible.
Okay, I would propose, I'm not opposed to putting up a fence, and I'll put up I'll put up whatever I have to. I mean, if you want me to put up a 14-foot fence, I'll put up a 14-foot fence. It don't make no difference to me. But at the end of the day, the only thing that has changed is two neighbors bought houses in the neighborhood.
I grew up
And
across
one-
the street from Amway, used to be in a garage, then one
Yeah.
building, then huge. At some
Yeah.
point I had to move out of a
Right.
residential neighborhood.
Right. No, I get that. But you're talking about a multi-billion-dollar a year company versus.
It wasn't originally. Originally it was
Can
a
I just
small
point
little
of
thing.
order, Randy? We did have
Yes.
your comments already, okay?
Okay.
This is really the planning commission asking questions of the applicant, all right? I just want
Okay,
to,
he went beyond that, so I thought I would address him.
that's okay, just wanted to make sure no one's confused since we don't know your voice.
Lene,
Sorry, John, go,
it's Helmrich here. Can I ask you a question?
Yes.
thanks, Becky, yes, Becky.
Yeah, I'm just curious, do we know, have we investigated the history? Have they been filing, paying for a home occupant business license from the township all these years? Because
I have no record of that. I have no record of any home occupation permit issued. They might have a business through the state of Michigan, but nothing through the township.
Well, but they're required to do so. I mean, we issue many of those licenses to people that run businesses out of their home, and they have to be renewed. I forget if it's 2 years or what, but it just seems to me that they've ignored that basic essential requirement all this time. And I'm concerned about, rewarding, this kind of misuse of so many things. And it's, as Bill Rowe said, it's not, this kind of business is not allowed in this zoned area. And it's unfortunate that it's grown so much that it's, become this issue for us. And in terms of, code enforcement, it probably rode under the radar for a long time. As they said themselves, it was much, much smaller. And I think we have to bear all that in mind. And again, I guess I could ask the owners this, have you ever applied for a home occupancy business license from the township?
We applied for one, probably, it must have been about 3-4 years ago. We didn't hear nothing back from it. And then we just assumed, because nobody's told us, that we had to get one. And then once we told we had to get one, we filed an application, and then nobody got back with us. So we just figured, our check was cashed. So, but we didn't receive a license. And then I asked my wife to go down and check on it, and then it was never approved. So now this is where we are today. It's not that.
Okay, but you waited 12 years to apply, and then you didn't do much follow-up. The onus is on the business operator to apply and get a license received.
Well, I'm legally with the state of Michigan. I have a license to operate through the state of Michigan.
No, but that's a different issue. You still you need a home occupancy license in the township to operate out of your home.
We never knew we needed one, and that's honest to God truth.
You didn't do your homework. I mean, it's unfortunate.
Well, maybe I didn't do my homework, but at the end of the day, if I didn't know, I didn't know.
I know, but that seems to apply to a lot of the things you've been doing, and that concerns me.
Okay, then how come nobody told me 15 years ago from the township?
How would that?
Because they didn't know. The township didn't
The
know.
onus is on the owner of the business.
Well, you want to know why the township didn't know?
You didn't tell them.
No, the township didn't know because nobody complained about it.
Well, that doesn't make it.
That doesn't make it legal.
Well, I'm not saying it makes it right or wrong. At the end of the day, we had a township, a person that was in the township office, worked every day, drove by my house every day. And her name was Pat Nickelbein.
Well, she's long deceased. I can't answer.
Well, I get that. I know that. But So it's not like I was unnoticed. It was just nobody really did anything about it.
Well, that's because I think you enjoyed flying under the radar.
No, I
and
didn't enjoy it. I'm just a father trying to provide for his family. That's basically the bottom line. But everybody that is against this, they wouldn't know how to operate a truck. They wouldn't know even.
That's immaterial.
Well, they wouldn't be able to buy anything from the store neither.
You're not
So-
operating a store. Sounds like
I mean, you could.
Mr. Helmrich, do you have additional thoughts that you want to share?
I mean, those are the main ones I wanted to bring up. You know, as I said, Mr. Rowe and Mr. Skipper have hit on things. And I also think the excellent overview, the memo from our zoning administrator, I mean, it identifies so many, questionable, issues that I think we need to take seriously, because look at the precedents this could set.
Thank you. Mr. Eiley, did you have all your questions asked? Did you have additional questions?
No, I don't think I had additional questions. Once again, I feel like this is a really unfortunate circumstance. However, one thing I think about is, let's say, and kudos to the business itself, it's growing, it's getting larger, but I just wonder, what happens when there's another truck added and pick up another trailer. And I guess I'm just not quite understanding, how we draw the lines here. And I kind of flipped through the master plan, and it does talk about like the agricultural areas, and it really specifies, it trying to preserve that agricultural feel to the, to the ag districts. And so I fall back on that, and I don't know, I guess I look at it as it's really unfortunate, but I'm not sure it fits, what the township's ultimate goal for that type of zoning should be. As much as I hate to say it, but I don't know. I can't really come up with another way to think of, to analyze it and come at it from a different angle. So I think that's all the more I have.
Anyone else from planning care to speak to this topic? Mr. DeFranco?
I did have some questions for the applicant if they're still on the line.
We're here.
I just wanted to know if you could, just give us a little more insight into, specifically, what you're doing with the trucking company, as in, what you're transporting, where you're transporting it to.
We haul mostly fresh and frozen food products. And, we go all over the country. The comment that was made about what about when you add trucks, he must not have heard that we downsized. So we're not planning on adding any more trucks. We downsized in the last year and a half.
So you used to have more,
Yeah, we had 10.
and now you have 8.
No, we have 6.
Okay. Go ahead, Daniel.
Is it 6 trucks and trailers, or is it 6 trucks and trailers, or six tractor trailers combined?
Yes, combined. 6 trucks, 6 trailers. And 2 of them very rarely ever park here. They may come in, you know, every once in a while, but that's it. And like we said before, there will also be 7 to 10 days at a time where there's no trucks here. And we're willing to work with the township and do what we need to do, whether it be plant more bushes, a fence.
This is Israel's. I just have a couple comments. I don't want to repeat what everyone else has said. I do think it's unfortunate though, too, that we've, you know, that this has come before us now. I want to reiterate that if we don't, it was not ever Pat Nickelbein's job to ride around and look for ordinance violations. And it's a person's responsibility to get the proper licensing and permits to operate the business. And please let me finish. If you have knowledge that you applied for a home occupancy permit 3 or 4 years ago, but you're not sure when and the check was cashed, and you checked into it and you found that it wasn't allowed, then right there is a red flag to say, we can't do this. And so that does concern me. The other thing that concerns me too is people every day plan businesses and they come before and get the proper permitting. And I mean, I commend you for your diligence in having a business on your own, but it isn't an appropriate business for A2. It is an appropriate business for industrial. And I honestly feel you're going to need to find somewhere to store your trucks and operate your trucking business in an area that's not A2. When I rode by the property, there were 4 semis there and several cars, and there is no buffer to the neighbors. And so I can understand how that would really upset them, and the noise is not conducive if it's all night long refrigeration trucks running on and off. The other thing that concerns me is storage tanks and how we get our information about that. And it's like some delivery man said, yeah, that's okay. You can have a storage tank. It doesn't have to have any safety measures, checks on it. We aren't concerned if it's hazardous or potentially has any type of fumes on it. And so that concerns me as for the soil, what's stored in those tanks, who's looking at that. If you feel you can operate a business without permits, you can't. And so that would be very difficult to be your neighbor. And there are some neighbors in that area that live there because they love the nature and the agricultural feel. And this is not conducive to that. It's not harmonious with A2. I guess that's all I have to say. I'm really sorry, but I can't support this.
About the tanks are clean and empty, and they were given to us. They're not in use. We weren't gonna put them in use. And my husband got it wrong about the permit. I went to the township about 6 years ago and was told I didn't need one if I was just had a home office and a couple of trucks. And the part he was talking about was where I filed the permit, I don't know, 2019, and then it was sent back to me. But that's all I got.
Chairperson Israel's.
Yes, DeFranco.
I have a few remarks.
Thank you. Please go right ahead.
I think the issue before us is challenging for a few reasons. I think that, nobody ever wants to take something away from somebody else. And it's also technically challenging that really the proper protocol here when you're applying for a home occupation permit is that you would go to the zoning administrator, and they would see if you're meeting the regulations and restrictions. And in this case, the applicant is not meeting the regulations and restrictions on two fronts. So the requirements say that the occupation can only be conducted by members in that dwelling. And if you want to have other employees that don't live in the primary residence, you can have up to 3, but you need to come to the Planning Commission for special approval use. Also, one of the regulations is that the home occupation has to be conducted entirely within the principal dwelling. And again, that's not the case here. It's being conducted outside and, potentially being conducted in an accessory building. So what we're here to do is not necessarily say, or issue a home occupation permit, but rather, it's before the Planning Commission because we have to determine whether or not we can issue special approval uses with respect to both of these non-conforming regulations. And if you kind of go back and look to why the zoning ordinance says that a person has to seek special approval use if they have people working for the business outside of the home, it's in order to prevent issues that pertain to this application. It's to prevent the character of the neighborhood from being materially impaired. It's to prevent additional traffic. And so I think that the very reason why individuals are required to seek special approval use if they have employees is to prevent this very thing that's before us. And I think the same thing applies to the reason why home occupations have to occur in the home, and not outside. That typically if you're operating a business outside, it's not going to be harmonious. It's not going to be conducive to most other uses within the township. And I don't think it's harmonious with agriculture. And I don't think it's harmonious with residential use. And so we do have to kind of go back to the special or those general standards for special approval use and ask whether this use, is designed, constructed, operated, and maintained in a manner harmonious with the character of adjacent properties and surrounding area. And, does it change the essential character of the surrounding area? And, is it hazardous to adjacent properties and involve uses, activities, materials, and equipment which could be detrimental to the health, safety, and welfare of the persons or property by traffic, parking requirements, noise, vibration, smoke, fumes, and glare? And I think that third, general standard is especially pertinent in this case, because I think obviously, a trucking business is going to pose hazards. And that when you're operating something like that, especially so close to other residents, you have to be very careful. You really have to be up to date on, what you can do, what you can't do, what requires regulation, what doesn't, how to seek that out. Because God forbid, if there is a spill of some sort of hazardous material and it does pollute that water source, all those neighbors don't have access to municipal water. They're dependent on their well. And if that well goes bad, that's a big problem for them. So I don't think that, the special approval use that's being sought for us meets the general standards for, special approval use. On the other hand, though, I think we do need to consider whether, denial of this rises to the level of a regulatory taking of property. Are we, in denying this special approval use, placing, restrictions that are so onerous on the owner that the property no longer has any value to it. And I think that, the very premise of the application is that the primary use of the property is residential. It's their primary dwelling. And I also think that if the applicant were to come back to us and, apply for a home occupation that actually met our definition of what a home occupation was, an occupation that was primarily run out of the dwelling, that we would have no problem approving it, or they wouldn't even have to come see us. I think that the zoning administrator would have no problem in approving it if it met the regulations and restrictions of the home occupation. And in so that case, because we're not taking away those uses, I don't think that it rises to the level of a regulatory taking of property, that the value is still there, that they can still use it for their primary use. And because of those considerations, that, it doesn't rise to the level of a regulatory taking of property, and it doesn't seem to meet, it clearly doesn't meet our, general standards for special approval use, that I would like to make a motion to deny the special approval use application for the use of employees and for operating an occupation in an accessory building and outdoors.
I'll second that motion. This is Roe.
Okay. Moved by DeFranco and seconded by Rowe to deny the special use application. Is that correct?
Correct.
Is there any other discussion from commissioners, please? Okay. Hearing none, I will call the roll. So we're moving to, let's just be clear that we're moving to deny.
Deny.
So a yes is to deny. Okay. DeFranco.
Yes.
Helmrich.
Yes.
Eiley.
Yes.
Israel's yes. Rowe.
Yes.
Shipley. Denise, are you there?
Yes.
Is that a yes, Denise, for, are you there? But is it a yes for the motion?
Yes. I don't know why you can't hear me.
I'm sorry, I'm sorry, but I'll ask if I can't hear you. Thank you. Welk,
Pass.
did you say, what did you say?
Pass.
Pass. Okay. Motion to deny the SAU passes 6 yes and 1 pass. Okay. Moving on, next on the agenda is 6B site plan review. An application from Mark Bublowski, AIX Design LLA for a miniature golf facility at the northwest corner of Blue Star Highway in Clearbrook on parcel 20-003-068-30. Parcel is within the C3 zoning district. This is not a public hearing. We've already had a public hearing on this property. So Lene, would you like to speak to this, or would someone from Mark Bublowski like to speak to this project, please?
This is John Tempest. I'm a civil engineer with Driesinga and Associates, and I'm representing Mark Bublowski on this project. I'm in Holland, Michigan, 12330 James Street. Lene, if you'd like to go ahead and give your summary, I'd be happy to follow up with additional comments, and I'm available for questions.
Okay, great, thank you. Commissioners, give me one moment while I scroll to the staff report. Well, actually,
As a point of record, I would like to just say that I initially abstained from any votes regarding this property because I did own it at one time, but did sell it 6 or 5 months ago. So if anyone feels I should not be part of this discussion, I can abstain. But I have asked 3 different legal sources and they said that it's not an issue. So, but if any commissioners feel that I should abstain, I will respect that. Thank you.
Great, so today we have, as John mentioned, this is a site plan review for Saugatuck Mini Golf. It's at the corner of Blue Star Highway and 135th Clearbrook Drive. It's 1.76 acres in area, and it's adjacent to multifamily to the north and west, and it butts a single family dwelling to the immediate west. In September, the Planning Commission heard the request for special approval use for this mini golf facility. The Planning Commission approved that with a few conditions, and I'll go through that here in 1 second. So the site plan includes an 18-hole mini golf course with a snack shack to rent clubs and provide snacks. They're also proposing a space for a food truck. In the site plan package, the applicant provided details about the speakers, the low-level speakers. They're at ground level. They provided details for their lighting and lighting fixtures, which include bollard lighting, as well as 3 pole lights that are decorative and they meet our dark sky ordinance. They've also provided a landscape plan that shows extensive buffering and landscaping along the north, east, and west property lines. They've maintained the existing vegetative buffer. That buffer is approximately 25 feet in depth. It does narrow a little bit to the north where the parking lot is, well, I shouldn't say north, I guess it's more to the west, where the parking lot is to facilitate ingress and egress. The parking lot is gravel. That is allowed by ordinance. The holes and the greens are oriented away from residential properties, and they're more than 25 feet from the property line. The applicant has also adhered to the conditions that you attach to that special land use. 2 of those conditions would be that low-level lighting. The other is the fencing. You did require that they provide a fence, and there is a 6-foot stockade fence along the north property line adjacent to the multifamily. And then they've included split rail fencing around the remainder perimeter of the property. We went through and did the analysis of the site plan. I can go through those standards for you. The first is that the development meets the setbacks, and it's designed in a harmonious and efficient way. We did find that it met those standards, and we did require, as a condition, that they receive a permit from the Allegan County Road Commission for the driveway placement. Their landscaping in item 2, they haven't adjusted the site at all. It's still in its natural state. We do note that we have a tree preservation ordinance, section 40-1113. It extends a 70-foot tree preservation area back from the right-of-way line. No more than 10% of the protected trees may be removed without a permit. Protected trees are those that are 6 inches diameter at breast height and 4.5 feet tall. So we've added a condition that they comply with this standard, and also that the project architect visit the site. I'm happy to be there at the same time, and we can mark those protected trees and the extent of the grading to ensure that they won't be damaged. The next is about natural resource features. There are no lakes, ponds, streams, or wetlands on the site. They are protecting the wooded areas that are along the buffer. Item number 4, special attention should be given to proper drainage. You'll note in your site plan that there are conditions that the township engineer has recommended. If you move forward with an approval, one of the conditions would be that all of his conditions are also met. That is the same with stormwater management. The township engineer has asked for more detail related to drainage and drainage calculations. So that's included in the conditions. Item number 6 relates to visual and sound privacy. We did speak with one of the adjacent property owners. She spoke at the special approval hearing as well. There still are concerns with neighbors related to kind of parking and privacy. The site plan, again, they've gone above and beyond in terms of buffering, the fencing, which was required of the Planning Commission, that they've provided that. They also have ample parking and meet the parking requirements. Number 7 is related to access and emergency vehicle access. The fire district also provided a review of the site plan. They do have some conditions in their report that we've embedded into our conditions. The fire district would like to ensure that the parking area can support a truck weighing 80,000 pounds. So that was one of the conditions that was added. Item 8, access to a public street. That standard is met. Number 9, proper relationship between the street and the service drives. That standard is met. You know, they could have taken access off of Blue Star Highway, but Clearbrook and 135th being a secondary street, that's one of our requirements, that they use the secondary street for the driveway and not Blue Star, just for safety reasons. Number 10 is related to the pedestrian circulation, and that's a challenge. And the township engineer raised that point in his memo as well. You know, we don't have control over our roadways, as we all know. And oftentimes sidewalks are located within the right of way. And we do anticipate that there might be a desire line from the hotel to the mini golf. It's a dangerous intersection. There are no crosswalks or sidewalks. And we're really not in the position to be able to put in a sidewalk, since this is the jurisdiction of the road commission. We could continue to work with the road commission on our own as a planning commission. I know Blue Star Highway is one of those topics that you're diving into. We could perhaps ask for any type for easement area on the private property for a future sidewalk. I'm, you know, looking at the space, it seems like if a sidewalk were to be built by the county, that there would be space within the existing right of way. So I'm not sure that that is necessary. So it's a challenge. I guess I bring it up just because it's a challenge and an observation and something we didn't want to not bring attention to, even though I believe there aren't any good ideal solutions, but perhaps some of the planning commissioners have other ideas. Item number 11 is related to loading and unloading and screening of trash and recycling. We didn't see on the site plan trash enclosure, so we were curious, perhaps in their presentation, they'll describe how they intend to handle trash removal. Item number 12 is related to exterior lighting and arranging that so it's deflected away from adjacent properties. I'm sorry, this is incorrect. There is outdoor lighting on the site plan, and that lighting does meet the requirements of our ordinance. And I know I said that in the first part of my review, but they have 3 pole lights in the parking lot, as well as the decorative bollard lights. Number 13 is related to, again, pedestrian circulation, and I addressed that above. Number 14 is related to subdivision control, and that's not applicable. Number 15 is related to wastewater treatment on-site septic. The memo from the township engineer addresses that. Number 16 was related to hazardous materials. We don't anticipate any hazardous materials on site for the mini golf, but nevertheless, they shall always comply with local, county, state, or federal rules. Number 17, no storage shall be located in any emergency access area. That standard is met. There were no issues with the township fire district review related to that item. Outdoor storage, none is proposed, but nevertheless, we have the standard and condition that outdoor storage shall not be permitted. Number 19 states that no use shall create any electrical, electromagnetic, radio frequency, or other similar interference. We don't anticipate that this use would cause any of those disturbances. Number 20, all solid, liquid, or sanitary waste shall be treated and disposed of accordingly. We find that not applicable, that there are no waste other than that associated with restrooms that will be on site. And then number 21, that any other reviewing jurisdiction, any standards they have shall be met by the applicant, and we've included that in our conditions. We do have architectural review, but since our architectural review states that retail and service uses are specified for the architectural standards, I don't believe that the accessory building for a mini golf would classify as retail or service. They're not, it's not like a hairdresser or accountant or office. It's a recreational use. So with those observations and findings, our recommendation would be to approve with the conditions that I've mentioned in the report. There may be other conditions to add based on your findings as a planning commission. I'm happy to answer any questions from the commission. This is not a public hearing.
Would the applicant, I'm sorry, would anyone like to ask any questions of Lene before the applicant speaks to this project? Mr. Tempest, would you like to speak to the project?
Yeah, I'd be happy to, and thank you. So Lene did a great job just summarizing everything. I'll try not to repeat too much of what she already said, but I will just mention a couple things. First of all, Mark is excited about bringing this project to the township. He thinks it'll be a great use for this property, and it's a great location, and I know he's excited about being able to get this business up and running. We would potentially, provided we get our approval and then work out the details with the various agencies, we would hope to start construction here in the next couple months and potentially be open this summer. So we are planning to work through details with the various agencies, the road commission on the driveway, and the township engineer with regard to stormwater, and the fire marshal as well. There's nothing in their conditions or requirements that concerns us in any way, so we don't anticipate any issue being able to meet the conditions of those various approvals. And as Lene mentioned, we would also, be willing and able to work with her on the tree protection. As you can see with the site plan that's in front of you, we've got to take some trees down to make room for the development, but we've tried to preserve as many of them along the perimeter of the site as we can. And then, on the south side along Clearbrook, we're providing a nice landscaped area. There's going to be a retention area at the south end of the property for the parking lot, and then a second retention area at the northeast corner, which will take the stormwater from the golf course itself. And, the owners are intent on making this a nice looking property, very visually appealing and nicely landscaped. And so that goes through not just to the perimeter landscaping you see on this plan, but also the interior landscaping in and around the various golf holes, which is not detailed on this plan, but would be, provided as part of the project. As far as, pedestrian circulation, we understand too that that's kind of a difficult issue, as Lene said. I think the owner would be, while they're certainly not interested in constructing any street, public sidewalks, I know that they would be, willing to cooperate with the township in the future, to make that happen. Although I think, as I would agree with Lene's assessment, that any public sidewalk along Clearbrook probably could be contained within the right of way and would not require an easement. As far as refuse management, the amount of refuse that this site is going to develop is very small. And at this point, we anticipate just a simple residential refuse container being used for this facility. We don't plan to bring any dumpsters or any dumpster enclosures to the project. We're anticipating just a single residential refuse container for the project. And that would probably be kept up by the snack shack, except when it's put out on trash day. And, the speakers and the lighting that are proposed, again, are very low intensity. The speaker system, those are 60-watt speakers, very small. The sound level is going to be very low, just background music, nothing that you'd have to raise your voice to speak over. And the lighting is going to be very decorative and interesting, and the larger lights along the parking lot and on the building are going to be dark sky compliant, as Lene mentioned. So those are really just the main points I wanted to highlight. Again, the owner is excited about this project and bringing it into the township. And I would be happy to answer any questions you guys have.
Commissioners, do you have any questions? Any discussion?
I have a comment.
Go right ahead.
I think the project looks fantastic, and I think it's just so apt for the environment that we're in right now, where we're really looking for outdoor recreational activities, and kind of thinking outside the box. So I think it's kind of a perfect timing and a great addition to our community. And I really want to thank John. We've met you before. I want to thank you for being so detailed, and your client for being so detailed. And it really is enjoyable to go through this project. So thank you.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Anyone else?
I would make a motion that we approve this project with the conditions that Lene has set forth, and the district engineer, etc.
I'll support. Rick.
There's been a motion on the floor made by Mr. Welk and supported by Mr. Helmrich. Is that correct?
Yes.
To approve the project as described with the conditions set forth under the summary of the conditions. Is there any further discussion on this or additional comments from anyone? Denise?
Please. I would tend to agree with everyone. I just, again, go back to how do we oversee that these conditions are met?
Good question.
I,
Renee, would you like to answer that? And Denise, I don't know if you can turn up your mic a little bit. It's very difficult to hear you.
yeah, I'm sorry. I'm not sure why. Is that better?
Yeah, it is a little bit better.
Okay.
Yeah, thank you.
I'll just howl a little bit louder.
So the question, Denise, was, you were wondering how we will ensure that the conditions are met.
That is correct. I just have seen too many projects now where we say, well, not we, but, you know, contingent upon, and how do we go back and make sure that, say, the vegetation or something is in fact what they said that they would do.
Right.
Sees that.
Yeah, so there's a two-prong approach. So first, before any building permit is issued or grading permit or any of those permits are issued to do any site work, we require that the applicant update their site plan if there's anything. For example, like I would like a note on the site plan about trash removal.
There actually is one, Lene.
There
Just,
actually is
Oh,
one.
there is. Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you. The tree.
But your point stands.
Okay, so the tree protection, for example, maybe we update the site plan or the landscape plan to identify some of those trees. So the condition from the fire district about the gravel parking, maybe there's a note that's added about the depth of the gravel or the type of gravel to ensure it can withstand or support that weight. So before any permits are issued, we go through and make sure that those conditions are reflected on the site plan that then becomes part of that permit. So that's the first step. And then the second step is there is a certificate of occupancy that's issued after everything is built and done. Before the building inspector issues a certificate of occupancy, the fire district goes to the site, the township engineer goes to the site, and the township planner, as well as all of the inspectors, the mechanical and plumbing and electrical. All of us have to sign off on that. We make sure that all the fees are paid at the township. Everything is done before we issue a certificate of occupancy, because that's kind of our last opportunity to make sure that everything is complete. So that's how we are handling those now. I don't know how that was handled before, but that is our procedure now.
Thank you, Lene. Does that answer your question?
It does. Thank you very much. I just have one other comment. So far as the vegetation, if there was some native vegetation incorporated, that would be wonderful.
I'm sorry, I didn't hear that.
If there was native vegetation incorporated, that would just be wonderful. Just an extra comment. So thank you.
Okay. Anyone else have any other comments? I would just like to say thank you for bringing that project to us. We appreciate that in our community.
You're welcome, and thank you for the support.
Yeah, thank you. We look forward to golfing there. At this time, I would like to call the roll. DeFranco.
Yes.
Helmrich?
Yes. Yes.
Yes, yes. Eiley?
Yes.
Israel's yes. Rowe?
Yes.
Shipley?
Yes.
Welk?
Yes.
Thank you. Motion passes unanimously. Thank you, Mr. Tempest, for being here tonight and supporting your motion.
Thank you.
Okay. Moving on to item number 7, old business. And this is the master plan review. And let's see, land use discussion related to the wellhead distance requirements and special approval use standards. On here, we have a couple different things. Lene's gone through the land use ordinances and made 3 recommendations to us. And I believe Mr. Eiley has some additional things that he would like to discuss. So Who should go first is the question.
Well, everybody's got Lene sitting right in front of them. So
Right.
Lene, why don't you have the floor?
Okay.
Well,
Thank you, Dave.
yeah, so the reason that this is in your packet, it was some conversation that came up after the previous planning commission meeting related to groundwater protection. And commissioners, you'll recall that there were some standards in that ordinance that were removed because the commission, at least the majority of the commission, felt that those standards would be better handled in our special land use section of the ordinance. So Commissioner Eiley, you requested that we take that up at this next meeting. So that is the reason why this memo is in front of you today. Yeah, so a couple things are here. So these are the three uses, junkyards and salvage yards. Oh, that's mighty big. Incinerators and sanitary landfills, and soil pits, sand mines, and quarries. So those were the three uses that were in the groundwater protection ordinance that that were removed. And so what I did was I included the standard that was in that groundwater protection about the separation from the municipal well for salvage yards. I added that for incinerator and sanitary landfill. And we also added it for soil pits, mines, and quarries. I also took the liberty to add another standard here. And I want to talk to you about this one with respect to this use and another use. But with this use, I think we've learned through some of the conversations that the Planning Commission has had, as well as some of the public comment we've had related to mines and mining operations, that it would be really helpful to have a survey of the site prior to the operation, a survey perhaps during the operation, and then a survey at the time that the site is restored. So I added that here. I kind of took the liberty. I know I wasn't directed precisely to add this at the last meeting, but taking into consideration comments that you've made in the past. So I've added that here. The next steps with this, I guess, is if you're comfortable with this language, we could send this to the township attorney and prepare this for a public hearing. The one thing I wanted to add is that we also have this process in our ordinance for pond creation. And it's a 1-paragraph rule that says that you need a zoning permit for pond creation and that they have to be less than 5 acres in area. I would like to include in that public hearing this same requirement, number 11, about surveys for pond creation. And perhaps maybe some language about the quantity of material kind of excavated for a pond that remains on site. I haven't prepared that language yet, but I could have it included for next meeting. If you'd like to have a public hearing on it, or if you want to see the language first, we can always have a public hearing on the pond item in 2 months. But it was just something that occurred to me that we might want to have the same kind of survey requirement if someone's just doing a pond. It's totally unrelated to the distance from a well. So that's all I have on that item.
Okay. I like the idea of the Alta survey, because not only does that, let us know where the development starts. From my experience, it also does a really nice job of identifying encroachments and things like that that may become an issue during the development of the property. So I think that's a really good idea. So I took it I put down some notes here. So I started to kind of review the land or the master plan to kind of get an idea on what direction, that was taking us. And I reviewed, the land plan talked a lot, well, it had a section in it about special environments. And I was trying to understand exactly what that meant. And I realized it means wetlands, sand dunes, critical wildlife habitats, I think were identified. But then I got to thinking, I was wondering, well, now that we've created this wellhead protection area, is the wellhead protection area considered a special environment? And maybe that's not so, but it's just something that kind of bounced in my head. And I was just wondering if you had any opinion on that, Lene, if that's something that's to take into consideration when identifying a special environment. Not that we need to discuss it now, but it's just something that kind of came up as I was going through it. Then I was curious as to whether or not these special areas have been defined. Probably not. We probably define them as the projects come forward, but it was just a question that I had come up. And the reason why I was considering all this, because I felt like not only the public, but maybe the planning commission as well, at least a number of us, were concerned about these large, ponds being constructed throughout the township. And how do we put restrictions or ordinances in place that that can help control that. And my first thought was, if this is possible, and I think we'd need to define what is a large pond, and maybe that is anything over 5 acres, because then it becomes regulated by the state anyways. But let's say I was thinking even smaller than that. And I had thought that maybe a way to put people in a comfort zone as to how development is, some things that are going to happen with development is limit the size of water creation or these ponds to what is required for detention or retention. And then anything that is greater than that then becomes a special use. And you come in for, you request a special use from that. So I was thinking of that for the special environment areas, but then I kind of started thinking about, well, okay, well, what happens when we get outside what I think is a special environment, I'm not sure our opinions change of these larger ponds in the township, but maybe I'm wrong. But either way, I thought that maybe that way of looking at it, as far as what's required for detention, becomes a nice guideline for what water bodies are allowed to be created on a piece of property. And maybe we can't be that restrictive. I'm not sure, but it's just something I was kind of an idea I came up with, and I wanted to throw it out there. And to Denise's point tonight, when she talked about the native landscaping on the ponds, I thought that might be something that we look at considering as well, is requiring some native landscaping, seed mixtures and plantings when they develop these when you develop these ponds, and then they become more of a natural feature other than like a beach. Those are my thoughts as far as that goes. And I think the whole idea of this was just kind of get our wheels spinning on this. And so I'd turn it over to whomever else might like to speak. I think I saw Denise's hand up.
Oh, no,
So that's all the more I had.
No, I cut my thumb. No.
Oh.
Would anyone else like to say anything? John?
Yeah, I just want to Well, thank Lene and Dave, but I really like that Dave took this special time at this juncture relative to the definition of special environments. And I particularly like the notion on limiting water size, defining that. And I also agree with him when he said that perhaps, maybe there is no difference between the special environments and the rest of the township. Maybe it is one. Yeah.
Special environment.
Yeah, well, that's true. Small s, not capital S. So I just want to thank him for that. And I think it's great thinking as we start to plow through the grander review of the master plan. And also just to thank Lene for the work she did on the land use list here. And again, as Dave's already said, I think the Alta survey idea is really, really an excellent one. Overdue and good thinking. And I like everything you've suggested here. I think it's great work. Thank you.
Yeah.
That's it.
Mr. Rowe, anything? Any thoughts? Mr. Walk?
No.
No. Denise, any thoughts? I didn't hear her.
No.
Okay.
I don't have any thoughts.
Okay. Daniel?
I think everything Dave did was great. It's very interesting. I think it's a lot to chew on. Love the idea of native plantings around the perimeter ponds, and creating more of like a natural environment is a very interesting idea. And thank you, Lene, for taking kind of just our thoughts on things and organizing them so well, and kind of even taking it a step further. So I really enjoyed this.
Thank you, Danielle. Thank you, Lene. I too really appreciate that and echo the comments of everyone who did say or speak. I think after the last meeting, we may have walked away and thought, does everyone not appreciate our water? But I think these are great additions to the ordinances, and it's a step. And I think the one thing we always have to remember is we can always make changes into other parts of the ordinance too, but I think we all want to protect our water. And so I'm very, very happy that you took it upon yourself to do this. My question is, the number 11 on the Alta plan, are you recommending then that we put the same thing into the pond ordinance? Is that what you're suggesting?
Yeah, that is what I'm suggesting.
Okay.
We do get calls about pond creation. And I know that if one were to cross the desk, that condition would be in any review or approval anyway. I think it would be nice to put it in the ordinance.
Okay.
And I guess the other caveat is that these have not been shared with our township attorney yet. So I want to make sure that he gives it all a pass. But with your permission, we could send this to him and add the item to the pond section of the ordinance. I don't have that. Oh, I probably do. I can give you the reference because I took a screenshot of it today, actually. That is section 40-637. I'll just read it to you. This is what we have in the ordinance today about ponds. It's short. Man-made ponds must be enclosed with a fence sufficient to prevent easy access, or shall be posted with notices stating the greatest depth of water therein and any extraordinary hazards to life occasioned thereby. Man-made ponds shall have sides sloped sufficiently to provide lateral support for surrounding land, and, unless located also on neighboring land, shall be located at least 10 feet from any neighboring property line. Prior to construction of such a pond, a permit must be obtained from the zoning administrator. The size isn't even in this ordinance. The size is a state like you said, Dave, a state rule. Gosh, we could probably have a whole meeting on this pond ordinance too. So let me see what I can do in the next couple of weeks, and talk to our township attorney in advance of the next time we meet.
Great.
Okay, and then what do we do with Dave's suggestions? I mean, are you going to include that in your discussion with the township attorney? Because when you read the policy, it's a lot different than detention for ponds for detention. Is that right?
Yeah, that was going to be one of my questions is, our ability in zoning and land use to govern pond creation and the size of those ponds. I don't want to speak out of turn because I don't know legal precedent on that item. I know generally that we can be more restrictive than state law. We can't be less restrictive. So I'd like to ask him that question.
Okay.
And then we could put something in here about like the slopes and the site restoration. We do say the pond has to be 10 feet from the property line, but we don't say anything about those piles. If there are piles, there's nothing in that ordinance about even describing what will happen to the material that's excavated to create the pond. So there's probably a whole lot of, we have a lot of opportunities with that ordinance in addition to just these special use standards. So we might have to bifurcate some of this conversation potentially, but we'll see what we can prepare.
Thank you. Dave, do you have any follow-up with this?
No. I mean, it sounds to me like we're going to take this to Nick and the township attorney and ask him, kind of his thoughts and opinions on what we can do and can't do and how to steer this. And then Lene will get back to us. And I think that's a really good next step.
Thank you. All right. So do we kind of wait to make a motion on this and just, I think the general understanding is that you're going to talk to Nick and then get back to us. So I don't think a motion's required at this time. Is that correct?
That would be my understanding too.
Okay, thank you. Any other thoughts from any commissioners before we move on? No. Okay, next on the agenda is public comment. And at this time, the same requirements apply, and we are open to the public. If you have anything to say, please keep your comments to under 3 minutes. And prior to commenting, we need to know your name and address and where you're commenting from. Thank you.
Same as before, if you want to raise your hand or turn on your mic or video and wave your hand to help identify anyone. I don't see anybody.
No. Seeing no one, I will close the public comments. Moving on to board discussion number 9, special committee update. Joe is going to lead us off in that because he's going to talk about the special committees and how we're doing some things. He's going to actually share a reporting function and just some details that we've worked out with these committees.
So,
Joe,
again, what we'll be doing with the special committees is I've talked to a number of you who are chairing them in order to help facilitate the projects, make sure the planning commission is on board as well as the committees themselves. We are going to be utilizing Microsoft Teams to coordinate the information so everyone can work in one digital space while they're at home or when they move independently. That allows us, if we get a FOIA or something going on, staff and I can pull that information and we hold on to it. We don't have township documents all over the place. Part of that will include 2 different guides that kind of go over kind of the expectations about reporting information up, how the work that the committee will be doing implements the long-term goal of the master plan. There will be an Excel sheet within that as the kind of the minute taking apparatus for it, so that the planning commission once a month gets an update on what the committee is doing when they meet. In that way, it shows the progress and allows staff and I to coordinate information. Do we need to get something for that committee? It just allows a better tracking tool. And we will also be implementing planning commission emails. That will be one of the ways to help facilitate communications. So I will be individually contacting you all about getting that set up in the next couple of weeks. We are currently doing tests, staff and I, on making sure this all runs smoothly before we go live with you all. So we are planning in the middle of March for it to go live with all the chairs. So just a little update on what we're working on. Any questions? Okay. I'll go through it all with you individually as you all are on different committees, so that if you do have any questions through that each guide, it can help move you forward in more details. The committees, I do want to mention, there has been some discussions amongst members about if they are OMA or not, as they are a special committee of the planning commission. They are under the OMA, and so the special committee will have to set up, times they'll meet, and we'll get those posted once you meet for the first time. They are open to the public, and me and Lene will help coordinate that with you and each committee's chair.
Question.
Yes.
I thought that there would not be a quorum of any committees, and therefore it would not fall under open meetings.
Because you're a subcommittee of the planning commission, you are working within the OMA. So it's better to be transparent to the public that they can observe us conducting business. You're meeting on behalf of the planning commission. The quorum question was, can I have 3 township board members or 4 planning commission members? And no, you can't, because that would mean the planning commission or the township board has a quorum. Now the committee would be kind of a separate entity within the planning framework.
I guess I don't understand, Joe.
Okay, maybe I can. The questions that I was getting about violating the OMA was, let's say John, Brenda, and Cindy were all on a special committee. Well, they would make a quorum of the township board, which they can't be because that would violate the OMA, because too many members of that one board are together conducting business. That would be a violation of the OMA. Because these are special committees within the planning commission, you as the planning commission have created them, they're still public entities and public meetings. So they still have to abide by the OMA.
Sounds like a lot of work for staff.
It won't be a whole lot of work. One of the things that we will be getting for the chairs is a designated Zoom account. So you just tell us when your meetings are, and we'll give you the login information, and you as the chair get to log in. And you as the chair get to run it. We just know when they're happening, so we can do the background information, make sure you and each committee is successful. So that's one of the things that we'll be doing, and we'll be going over with the chairs because of that capacity question that we've had. So the chairs will have a little more leeway on setting things up. It's just we have to follow the rules.
Those are good questions.
Attorney says.
Pardon me?
I said I would like to hear what the attorney's interpretation is.
Okay,
Of,
we can ask them.
okay. So currently Joe's working on a functionality sheet. I mean, it explains how the teams will function and who the members are. And then there is a reporting mechanism too. When he spoke about that, it will be on Excel. So everyone will have access to it. And that way, then you'll just, it'll be a very quick format. It's not going to be lengthy minutes that you'll take or anything, but then you can just, you know, fill it out on Excel and log it into your book. And it sounds like some of the committees are changing, and of course we knew this would happen. And we now have what, 4 committees. Actually, if we don't count recycling, we still have 4 committees. So the Blue Star committee is separated into safety, traffic area, and a commercial area. And then the other 2 committees are still working. Daniel's committee and what's the other one? Housing. Those are the other 2. So that right now are the 4 in progress. My apologies to Denise because she suggested that at the last meeting, let me just refer to the minutes, that we include open spaces as an area of interest in these committees. And I thought she was suggesting that we have another team called Open Spaces. And I think it was just late, and I'm sorry that I just didn't get that. And I kind of said, no, it's in the other group. But I do think, you know, I just want to acknowledge that we should consider open spaces in our committees, and I respect that. So I wanted to bring that one up there. And I don't know if there's any other comments. Would anybody like to share anything about their committees or their committee works, or do you want to wait for the tools in next month? That's entirely up to y'all. Daniel, Dave?
I'll wait for the tools. I've assembled my group, but I will wait for the tools.
My group's in the process of being assembled, and I had a nice conversation with Joe about a little over a week ago, I think, or maybe about a week ago. And
It's flown by.
I know, maybe it was longer, I don't remember, but but so I was kind of sitting in limbo waiting for what he was going to supply to us before, you know, we took it to the next step, because I wanted to make sure I was doing it properly. Because after having a conversation with Joe, I realized I was kind of going at it the wrong way, at least a different way. So I'm waiting to make sure I get on board with how Joe wants to see it all happen.
Yeah, been talking with you all has helped refine some of the little details as we talked it out. So now I have I've gone over it with Becky and Lene, so we have a formal guide that everyone is working by the same book. So that way, no group is doing something different than the other. We're all following a similar path, but on different topics.
And we really haven't had any discussion with anyone from housing, but back to the Blue Star Highway, I think we're looking at splitting that into 2, and Dave will have 2 co-chairs or 2 chairs under that committee, and he'll just sort of operate as the overseer of both. That way, we can have additional people on 2 separate committees under that, and that was kind of important, because otherwise our resources were running low in a way, and so many people wanted to be part of it, but there is two different interests in that group, so that's good. So he's working that out, I believe. Right.
Housing has talked several times.
I'm sorry, what?
Housing has talked several times.
Okay.
Yeah, we've got a new member that's going to be joining the housing committee. And I think, I'm in agreement that we should wait, until we get these new tools to really do anything more with it.
Yep.
Okay. Good. All right. Well, I think that we'll move on then. Is that okay with everyone?
Sure.
Okay. Let's talk briefly about Planning Commission education. I sent out, it's weird when you're Zooming because you have papers everywhere. I don't know if you feel that way, but I do. Just kind of a general thing with education I would like to suggest is when I get information about education, I will send it out to you. And I do know that some of you probably did attend the attorney's presentation last week, and that was a free education for planning commission folks. And then I did send you information about the Michigan Association of Planning in March. I'd probably sent that today actually, but there's several workshops, and there's one on risk management, site plan review, and another one on master plan process workshop. And and then there's the planning and zoning essentials workshop. And John said that those workshops are usually, they're kind of a 2-hour or 4-hour workshop. I don't think any of them are 4 hours, actually. They all look like they're 2 hours. And the cost is about $75 to $100. And we're not asking you to pay that, actually. I just want to be clear on that right away.
Hey, Becky, planning, the essentials is actually 4 hours, but it's split over 2 days.
Oh, it is? Okay. Yeah, it's split with 2 days.
They used to do it 4 hours in one day, and now they've split it up.
Okay. I see that now. Thank you. And risk management is actually 2.5 hours. I did send it to you, so I think you're better off looking at it in your emails. And then MTA has a virtual conference that's $159, and that's a 3-day session, and it's April 25 through 28. And I went on the websites trying to see what the education sessions were going to be. And usually they have good sessions on housing, but I could not find them. I don't know did you find the education sessions by any chance, Daniel?
No, I did not.
No, I didn't see that, but I saw lots of other information about it. And what it did say is that if you sign up for that session, you have access to every session that's in there, and there's 20 plus sessions of education, and there's some pre-classes if you're a board member, assessor, or an attorney that you can attend to for an additional cost. But there's also breakout sessions and open session speakers 2 days prior to it that may be interesting, but anyone who attends the session has total access to everything. So I know that it's a larger expense and it's a greater time commitment, but that is an option too. And so if you're interested in any of these, I'd really like to know, and so I can work with John and Joe to get you signed up, because actually next week is the Michigan Association of Planning workshops. That starts in March. So John would do it tomorrow if we know what we want to do.
And even the one that's next week is also repeated at the end of March.
Yes, it is. The Essentials Workshop starts next week. So I don't know if you want to look at that. It sounds like our budget will support a couple people for the MAP. And Joe, you said possibly for the MTA. And I know Daniel's expressed interest in the MTA, and I don't know if anyone else is interested. I haven't heard from anyone else, so. Do you want to just sort of think about it and let me know?
If you can also email Becky and she can let me know later this week, and then we can get things lined up and make sure, you get it approved, and then we can get you all signed up.
Does that sound good?
Hmm.
Okay, another thing I would like to add to this Planning Commission education piece is that when you do attend an education seminar, it would be very helpful if you just have a 5-minute presentation to come back to the Planning Commission about what you learned or anything that's relevant to share with us. Because I think when the township invests in education, it's really important for you to share that with everyone. So I hope you're agreeable to that. And then another piece I'd like to add to this is when I did go and speak with the Parks Commission about our committees at their last meeting. And I think Denise was in attendance at that meeting too. I don't know if she was at the entire meeting, but it was very interesting to hear what they're doing. And I, at the end, just said that I would recommend that they come and speak to all of us and just give us 20 minutes about what they are doing. And we could schedule that prior to our meeting. We could do a 6:30 presentation with Parks, but I think it would be beneficial for us to do that and give us some, I mean, it's so important when we talk about our master plan and all these special committees. And so I did not commit to having them come, but I tentatively suggested that they come in March if it's agreeable to you all. And if not, they're fine with that. But on another note with that, I think, Joe, if we could get a larger parks map, we have one, but it's so difficult to see. If we could have one that's just a little larger for commissioners. I think we've asked for it in the past, but that would be nice.
Okay, we can look into that.
Okay, thank you. So would you like to hear from the Parks Commission?
I would.
Sure.
Yeah.
Okay, good. All right, so I will talk to Jim Searing and tell him that that's on, okay? Are you okay with that, Denise and Bill?
Yes, absolutely.
Okay. Denise?
Yeah, I think that's a great idea.
Okay, good. Any other thoughts on education? I want to hear from you all.
I do, Becky. So I know you had asked me to talk the class I had taken, the citizen planning course. I frankly, I don't know that I really recommend it for any of you. Maybe Daniel, maybe, but I think you're already getting some education. I think that it's it's all online. You can look for it for yourself to see if it's anything you're interested in. What I do have access to is all of the documents that they provided me. And I have an enormous amount of documents on every possible subject that comes up. So I do have that. I don't know how to share that with everyone. I think I've discussed that with Becky. I don't know what my options are. I do have it on a flash drive. I can provide a list of everything available. I provided that to, I believe, Becky. If there's any articles, there's everything from how to be your chairperson to legal things to, everything. So I do have that, and I'd like to offer if anybody wants any documents. I'm happy to pass on what Michigan State Citizen Planner course has given me, and I can share with you. So far as taking the course goes, I think that you could do just as well by me sharing my documents with you, frankly, at the moment. I do have one other question though I do belong to this Michigan Planning Association, and I do have a question. I don't know if Lenee's there, she can hear me. She might be able to. I just read on the inside cover of this recent, during 2020, Michigan Association of Planning successfully launched a pilot project with Eagle's Coastal Management Program, a Coastal Leadership Academy. It's approved for another round of funding. It brings together community leaders and stakeholders in a collaborative environment to collectively learn and ultimately share coastal resilience experiences throughout their region. A combination of education and collective learning underscores critical hazards facing coastal communities and prepares participants to collaborate and problem solve for more informed local decision making. And I think because we're so coastal, this might be, I don't know any more about it. I just read it on the inside cover of this month's fabulous Michigan Planner, which I'm also happy to share if everyone doesn't get this. But if Lene is there, if she can share anything about that, I'd like to know more.
I don't know anything more about it. I really don't. But it seems like you're saying, right up your alley. Yeah.
All right, well, I can just send a copy to Becky or something, and maybe she can just get it.
So is there a cost listed for that, Denise?
Well, it's not, it's just saying that there's,
Is there a contact person? I can email.
Oh, gosh, no, see, I'm not even literally on the inside cover.
Well, I know several, so I can email some of the staff.
Yeah, just something about the Coastal Leadership Academy. It just looks like it might be interesting for our area.
Okay, I'll send it right now just to get more information.
Thank you. I'd appreciate just knowing any little bit more, but that's all I have. Yeah, I'm happy to share documents, whatever I've got.
So Joe, do you have any suggestions on how we could take Denise's offer up and share the documents from her class? And I would just like to note that she did this class prior to being put on the planning commission, and she did do it at her own expense, I believe.
I did.
Yeah, thank you.
Well, she can, Denise, if you can send it to me, we can send it to the other ones.
Other
members.
to you. So here's the thing, by it's like a list of, I don't know, I must have 50 documents, and then it's all in a flash drive. Is it something I could drop off and maybe you can go through the flash drive and see what you can put together?
One thing though,
I don't know how to send giant files, you know what I'm saying? Like I was unable to figure that out.
One thing though, you might want to make sure, Denise, is because I went through the program too, is that you might be, because you went through the program, one of the qualifications is that you don't pass out the info because you signed it. So you might want to check with them first.
Oh, that's interesting. Yeah, thank you.
Don't want to get in trouble.
Yeah, no, that's interesting. Thank you. I didn't see that anywhere, but I appreciate that. I'll go through and make sure. Fine print.
Yeah.
Find out if it's protected.
Yeah, I'm saying everybody can just share documents, but maybe that's not the case at all. But I'll go back and look. In fact, I can
check. We don't want to get in trouble, but if they're fine with it, that's fine.
Yeah, I appreciate, some of it is like some of it's like the Michigan Enabling Act, and some of it's like really kind of that sort of information in court cases and things. That's all public information to begin with. But you're right, I'll make sure that none of it is protected. So thank you for reminding me.
When I went to an MTA conference a couple years ago, they were pretty clear that all the documents there were shareable. So it will be interesting to see what you find out, because we were encouraged to take extra syllabuses and or extra books for everyone if they had them. So I thank you for looking into that. And then it sounds like you would be interested in the Coastal Leadership Academy, or?
Yeah, I'd be interested to know if it applies to our area. I mean, we're pretty coastal, and it seems to be a lot of concern around here. What's going on?
Right.
I don't know, I think it's just one more tool we could use to get some more information and some allies.
Okay, good, thank you. Is there anyone else that has any suggestions on someone that they would like to bring in? John and I did talk a little bit about Ryan Kilpatrick, and we were fortunate enough to be on planning and have Ryan in to talk about housing. And I didn't know if that was something that you would want to repeat, or I did share, I think, the handout with Daniel. I don't know if that was helpful.
No, it was interesting.
Was it? You could share that with Denise. I think both of you missed that presentation. You weren't here yet.
Yeah, and Ryan is a great resource. I mean, I think anytime we could get him to talk to us, it would be a plus.
So should we try to do that in the next few months then, do you think?
Sure.
Again, because John sent some information about a project they're doing up in Grand Haven, and I'm ready to go look at it, but
He'll give you a tour.
that's what I thought. Okay, so I'll put that down too, in terms of our education, okay? And is anyone opposed to starting our meetings a little earlier if we have a presenter?
Not at all.
Okay.
That would be great.
Anyone else? You okay with that, Ed?
Yeah, that's fine.
If we started at 6:30 instead of 7, if we have a presenter?
It
bring
start
them
at
in
6.
first?
I mean, aren't your township meetings at 5?
No, they're at 6.
They're at 6, okay.
But 7 is a late start, I think.
Yeah, I agree with you. Okay. Anything else about education that anyone would like to put out there?
Quick question for the chair.
Yeah.
Just to clarify, are you guys wanting for your next meetings to be earlier, or just that's something you want to talk about at the next meeting?
Oh, no, it's not. We're not going to change the times of our planning commission meetings right now. I don't think that we can do that we had a lot of community backlash when we tried to do that several years ago. We talked about it. But we just said if we have a presenter in, we could plan to have the presenter in early and present first, and then open our planning commission meeting. Does that make sense? For now, I'm not opposed to the conversation of earlier meetings, but we do know it's difficult for some people to get here. That's what we told.
Hey, John, do you have a number I can call you at?
Sure, I have 3. Which, how about I'll do? Let me give you the cell phone. 323 365 1231.
Now everyone's going to be calling you, John.
Most of you have it, so.
You're going to be getting all kind of calls now.
That's 323 365 1231.
You got it.
Thank you, sir.
Just don't overdo it.
Don't do it right now, Ed.
I will not.
Okay. Okay, so moving on. Are we ready? Book discussion. I'd love to know how you like the book. I put out just a question about, did your reading influence how we should approach housing, or did anything stand out? Any highlights in the book? And I'd like to hear from each of you. Okay, so who would like to start?
I guess I'll start. I find it interesting. I'm not sure I agree with all of his assessments as far as where cities are going. I see the logic in what he's saying. I see the financial aspects of it. I like some of what he's saying about housing and the need to which we've been discussing, allow smaller housing, more versatile uses whether it be accessory dwelling units or what have you. But he doesn't paint a very rosy picture of where things are going. And I don't know. I'm not sure I agree with that part of it, but it's an interesting read so far.
Thank you. Who else? Who's ready?
I really like I actually enjoyed the book. I thought it was interesting perspective on a lot of things, but I appreciated his approach with analyzing projects from a like a rate of return. It's from a financial perspective, which you never really think of that from a government viewpoint. And I think a lot of his projects were like the initial designs are more like, say, downtown Saugatuck, as opposed to rural, spaced out Saugatuck Township. But I mean, I appreciated his viewpoint and how things went, and I thought it was interesting to take that look from a financial perspective, because we are spending taxpayer money, and and we need to do it wisely, and just the whole idea of infrastructure, and because that's the buzzword right now, right? I mean, you always hear that on the news, or from a political standpoint of infrastructure. We got to dump money into infrastructure, but as he paints the picture in this book, that most of the time infrastructure just can't support it, and it's just going to bury governments in debt. So I found it interesting to look at it from that point of view.
Yep, I thought it was an interesting read too. I read it before, but I think I enjoyed reading it the first few chapters again. I love the image of the house in Pompeii, and it really like, I started thinking, I'm like, oh wow, like the center of Pompeii is like downtown Saugatuck, and like the house he's talking about is Blue Star Highway. And that's kind of where I like reoriented that. Like, I think sometimes when we think about these things, we are a separate community, but we're so interconnected. And Blue Star Highway really is this kind of, in a way, it's an outlier of the central downtown, but it is, it is developing. And I think of Penny Royal, how it used to be like kind of an accessory building for Ronan Black, and it transformed into a restaurant. I don't know how much it changed my idea of residential development. I guess this idea that everything has to be done as not the best way to approach things. I appreciated that point, this idea of letting things kind of grow organically and setting the stage for development, as opposed to insisting upon a finished product right away, and how that might get us into financial trouble, because everything is going to be be renovated or replaced all at the same time. So I think a lot of those things are pertinent to some of the issues that we're talking about. But yeah, I like this idea of flexibility, letting things develop organically, not insisting upon like a finished product, and how that might save money in the long run.
Thank you, Danielle. Denise, do you have anything to add?
I don't.
No, okay. John?
Yeah, because one thread that I've noted, I've only done the first 3 chapters, but it does seem to be, I think, pertinent to us, is this notion that the municipality and its planners and planning commission people should be, they should be the ones out front in many instances, leading the way in terms of what's going to be developed, what new projects are going to happen, rather than reacting to having the developers per se lead the way and the municipality and the public figures simply reacting to it. And I think that's something we all need to bear in mind. I don't know if he uses the term later in the book, code-based form, where you sort of set up your goals where you want this to be residential and this one to be more area to be more commercial. But I'm a big supporter of that notion. And I think he's maybe driving to that point. I'll find out in the subsequent chapters. And then also on the infrastructure point too, infrastructure does not always pay for itself over time. It can actually have a negative financial impact on a community. And he makes a case that it's often appropriate for the person who, or the project that needs the infrastructure to pay for it or fund it, or at least help. And we're certainly dealing with that with water access, in the township, whether it's on Wiley Road or the Van Horn property. It's not always the local government's obligation to saddle that burden. And that certainly struck me, since it's so relevant to things we're going through right now. And yes, the little house in Italy was fun.
In Pompeii.
Yeah.
Mr. Walk?
Yeah, on the infrastructure issue, it's got to become a real strong partnership between the developers and the community. Again, I mean, the primary thing that the community is typically responsible for is the water. And, the gas company comes in and puts their lines in, the electric company comes in and puts their lines in, telephone, internet, etc. But the water is such a big issue. And there's no question that it over time may never pay for itself. But the developers have to become a partner in whatever happens with the water.
Yeah.
I'm good.
Anyone else have any comments? I'll just say that I asked John if we could go to Pompeii. And he said, "What do you mean?" So
I don't remember that. Okay.
We're not allowed in right now.
Oh, it's Grand Haven. I said we could go to Grand Haven.
That's interesting too, because when I've been in Pompeii, and what I noticed when I was in Pompeii was the rail tracks that ran through that center of town, and that was for the carts. And I thought they were way ahead, forward thinking in that. And so that I didn't notice the shop where you could live behind the shop, but I noticed that they were very artistic too in their creations. So I think they were forward thinking in a lot of things. So we've learned a lot from them. But I would agree with you. I thought that looking at the rate of return, or the rate of investment, the return on investment for developing projects is something that we have to be really clear about. We're very forward thinking in the United States compared to other countries. And still, if you travel down through Honduras and Guatemala and those areas, they still have those little structures of homes with a little, the grocery area in the front. And that might be just one little shelf, and everyone sells Coca-Cola. And so I think we've come a long way in what we do. And I loved the analogy, kind of looking at Detroit. I never thought of Detroit as building all the road systems because they were building the cars. And so it made sense. I mean, but when you study Detroit in college today, they talk about the flight from Detroit totally different. So I thought it was just a different perspective. But I guess, I don't think I had any other comment on this, except I figured that the advent of HOAs is probably it's probably happened because we do have to share in the cost of infrastructure with government and or be responsible for that. And so a lot of people say the HOA is so expensive, but it is expensive to put a road into your subdivision. And I know in ours where we live, we're planning on new roads in 2024 and we are putting them in. And that was always the plan. So I think, yeah, John, you're right. We have to look at it differently. But I do really support the fact that going back to your budget and how you're managing the money, we do have more saved now. And that's a good thing. We talked about it last
Yes,
night.
no, we did. Yep.
Okay. Any other comments? Tell me, do you want to finish the book by next time or do you just want to read 3 chapters?
We have a month. Let's finish it. It's short.
You okay with that?
Sure.
Yep.
Yes.
Yep.
Denise? Yep. Okay. All right, let's finish the book. If anybody doesn't have it, you can borrow mine, but just let me know. Send me an email and I'll share it. Okay, so are we ready to move on to the township board update?
Sure.
Okay.
Oh, we've all been waiting for, and it's a short one this month. That's good.
Okay.
Township board met on February 10th, last Wednesday. We opened up, County Commissioner Dean Capenga reported on a COVID vaccination site, sort of a pop-up one that was operating in Fenville. And he shared that a new groundwater study has been completed and is on the Allegan County website. He didn't give any details. He just said it was available to look at. Board went into a special legal update session after the public comment. And then we came out of that and reviewed the multi-year strategic action plan, which we met on the previous week, on February 2nd, we had that special meeting that we talked about at the joint meeting. The special meeting just to review the strategic plan for the coming year. And we agreed with the suggestion of our facilitator that we start referring it to the multi-year strategic action plan because there's a lot in there. It is available. It's on our Saugatuck Township website. It's under the information tab if you want to review it. Or let me know. We can also get you your own electronic copy. There was the facilitator was stressing that most townships and municipalities, cities have a mission statement. We were not able to locate one for an existing one for the township. So this is the one that we adopted at the meeting on February 2nd. I will read it to you. Saugatuck Township is dedicated to providing visionary leadership to enhance the quality of life for all our diverse residents, providing the highest quality of service within the constraints of a fiscally responsible government, and fostering sound economic development while maintaining the highest level of stewardship of our precious natural resources. Then we moved into the consideration that came from this planning commission on the wellhead protection ordinance, and we voted to approve it as it was sent to us from the planning commission. Then there was a review of a 2022 draft road project and maintenance plan. And then we had more public comment, and our own PC member Denise Shipley spoke on the strategic action plan itself, and actually on the process of this going through it, and also on the potential study for a historic district around the river mouth. And that was our meeting. I did want to separately ask, I don't know, did anyone else sign up? Tomorrow evening at 6 is the Eagle hearing on the Van Horn.
Didn't know you had to sign up.
Yeah, you're supposed to register. I did, and it's a really, 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 really long sign in. But it was, yeah, it was noticed in the commercial record, the official Eagle notice. Of course,
Mhm.
Record had reported on it the week earlier, but they had like, I think one number or one letter wrong and it didn't work, but
Okay.
I don't see if I still have it. I could email it out if I do. I'll try to see. Like I said, it's like 50 different letters and numbers and slash marks, but
If you could email it out, we can cut and paste. Denise has a question.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I missed what's happening. Can you repeat that, John? I'm so
Oh,
confused.
tomorrow night at 6, Eagle, the state, what used to be the DEQ is
Yeah.
having the formal, the official hearing on the Van Horn Pond water features
Okay.
at 6 p.m.
And you can register to,
You have to register to get the Zoom instruction. And you can even say, you can click that you want to make comment, or you can even just submit a comment or a question
thank you.
or not. I want to hear it and see it. Never done an Eagle hearing, so it's very, I think, relevant to us.
I did submit on behalf of the zoning administrator of the township, a written comment.
Great.
If they were considering any sort of conditions that we would recommend a survey of the property, including the lake, an Alta survey showing all the piles and the exact size of the pond and surfaces.
Excellent.
So that they're not, that the time frame that the planning commission approved in the resolution be, adhered to. I was in my mind thinking that maybe there'd be some kind of allowance for continuation or something, but I reiterated that the resolution exists and that there is a time frame.
Cool. Hey, would you happen to still have the registration information?
Yes, I have that email. Mhm.
Oh, could you share that with us, please?
Yes.
Okay. With all the planning commissioners?
Yep.
Okay,
I'll forward the email from Eagle, and then you can click on the link.
thank you very much.
Thank you, because I don't think I saved it.
So if we just click, do we have to pre-register if you're sending us a link?
I don't know. I have a
Is it the link to
conflict.
register?
I do not know those answers. I'm sorry.
Okay.
I knew I have a conflict tomorrow, so personally I couldn't go.
Okay.
Made sure we put those comments in writing to them.
No, that's great.
I'll send that as soon as the meeting's over.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Cool.
John,
Yes.
when's the next board meeting?
Second Wednesday in March.
Second Wednesday in March. Okay.
I should know what day that is.
10th.
10th, I believe. 10.
10th?
March 10th.
All right.
Should be.
John, you commented that the board went into a closed session and then out of a closed session. Is that what you are able to share at this point in time?
Yes, when it's of a legal nature, that's all I can share.
That's what I thought. Thank you.
Sorry.
No, that's okay. In and out. Gotcha.
Any other questions? Lene, do you have any updates that you want to share?
No, I have no updates.
Okay. Well, it's that time then, folks.
Yeah.
I would make a motion that we adjourn.
And I'll second.
All right.
Moved by Mr. Welk and seconded by Mr. Rowe. Thank you, everyone, for being here. This will be the last time I call the roll tonight. Franco,
Yes.
Helmrich,
Yes.
Eiley,
Yes.
Israel's yes, Rowe,
Yes.
Shipley,
Yes.
Welk.
Yes,
Thank you for a nice meeting, everyone.
thank you.
Thank you. Thank you,
All right.
Lindsay.
Right.
Yep.
Thank you, Lene.
Bye, thanks.
Thank you, Joe.
Thank you, Joe.